Welcome to Ecotopia U Media. I'm your host, Melissa McGinnis, joined by my co-host, Tom Wright. Hello, Tom.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Today we're going to discuss what I think the UN called this year is the year of soil. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I know that we talked about the Rodale Institute kind of pioneered some of the science behind understanding healthy soil. Is that?
Yes. Yeah, they have a farm system trial that they've been doing since 1981. And they've been measuring soil organic content and carbon content, nutrients in soils since then. And they've written a series of reports starting in 2003 about how farming organically actually sequesters carbon. It can actually help mitigate climate issues, can bring carbon down in essence.
And how does it do that? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, it's through photosynthesis. I mean, it's the main process. And
in which way does organic help sequester carbon and not organic farming doesn't?
Well, we should be really clear about the methodology is what we're talking about. I mean, with that, it's a very good question because USDA organic seal is not the same thing as what we're talking about, what Rodale's talking about. That organic seal means basically that somehow the product was farmed without herbicides, pesticides, or fungicides. But the USDA organic seal doesn't tell you about organic content of the soil. There's nothing in the regulation about it. What Rodale is talking about is building organic matter up in soil to at least 5% of the soil's content is organic matter. So that's a key percentage that they point out in these reports.
And how are they building up organic matter in the soil?
Well, they use compost and manure. I think as a two main ways that they're doing it.
What's the state of our soil overall here in the U.S.?
This is a great big question. I don't know how to quite answer that other than we know that we're still losing more topsoil than gaining topsoil. We haven't reversed the trend of losing topsoil. If you think of the amount of acres that are being farmed organically, it's I think 3 to 4% of all the acres in the United States are farmed organically. Now, does that mean that 96% of them are all losing topsoil? Probably not, but a significant percentage of the methodology of tilling and adding chemistry. It makes the soil less likely to retain water, which means it's drier, therefore it blows away more, so it creates erosion.
And also, I mean, if our food is being grown in inadequate soil, then the nutrients would be lacking in the food.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of Deborah Coons Garcia's favorite quotes, is that you can tell how nutritive the soil is by looking at what it produces.
Right. So they're doing a great job at studying it and advocating for healthier soil. Our friends over at the Carbon Underground are doing the same, correct?
Well, basically they're aligned. I mean, the science that Carbon Underground is speaking of is Rodale science.
So we need people out there talking about this and educating the public about this.
And I would say we need people talking about it, and we need to look at the system and why it's not prevalent in universities to be teaching this as a solution. You know, rather than it's still organic agriculture. The methodology is still being niched as well. If you want to do that, but you know, we've got better ideas.
Well, is it safe to say that
they don't?
We in our past segment just talked about Monsanto's Roundup and the use of that on GMO crops. Is it safe to say that they could potentially be involved in the curriculum here and at some of our top kind of farming schools?
I think that's just absolutely true. I mean, in public documents, you can see they do give grants to ag schools all over the country. So there's a conflict of interest, sure.
So we really need people like the Carbon Underground and Ecotopia U Media to just spreading the awareness because we have a choice. And
the awareness and how do we get young people into farming when when they don't even get the information that they need to how to learn how to farm correctly. It's just quite a quandary.
Well, I guess you could visit the RodaleInstitute.org for more information.
And there's studies. There's a dairy up in Northern California called Strauss Dairy, and beginning in 2003, they started coordinating with Rodale too. So you can go to straussdairy.com also.
And the yields are higher. The quality of the crop is better. I mean, there's no benefit to not work on healthier soils.
No.
And then to also the fact that it could help mitigate climate chaos. It's just like a no-brainer.
Well, we would hope so, but again, politically, there's every once in a while, as you know, Prince Charles of the UK has been a big proponent of organic methodologies, and in part because of this. And but when you think about all the personalities that are involved in politics, he's the only one that I can point to. I mean, there's no specific congressperson or senator.
No, I mean, they talk about, certainly here, they talk about climate chaos, Al Gore. They understand there's climate change. But what HRH, Prince Charles, has done is really discuss why and provide solutions that are really just naturally based methodologies.
Yeah, he's a very wise man.
Well, thank you for the conversation today, Tom. I'm sure we'll cover this again.
Yes.
And check out those websites for more information.